And so now Paul in 1 Timothy chapter 3, verses 1 to 10, he's speaking to two specific groups of people. And before I speak about who they are, let me say this to you. What we read in chapter 3, verses 1 to 10, is the goal, is the desire that leaders are supposed to have, so that makes it the desire that all of us are supposed to have. This is not just relevant for a certain group of people. This is what you and I all strive for. And so Paul, in order to fight the good fight, in order to strengthen the church, he organizes a team of leaders. He organizes and puts together a team of leaders. And these leaders fall into two categories in this section of Scripture. The first section of leaders, or the first group of leaders, he calls overseers. Some English translations translated as bishops. When Paul says overseers, the English is a little blunted. It means people who will watch out for the flock, watch over the flock, the church, care for the flock, look after them, look and see if danger is coming, and be there to walk them through. Overseers speaks of a word where not in a pejorative or negative way, but people are being proactive in their care for the church. So before the problem happens, the overseer is supposed to be able to see that and protect the people. It's a caring ministry. And then the second group that Paul talks about, he calls them deacons. And the word deacon comes from the word to serve. And so he doesn't say that the overseer is higher than the deacon or the deacon is higher than the overseer. He doesn't give a list of polity. He says these groups are needed in the church. And these deacons are those who must serve the needs of the church. In Acts chapter 6, they waited on tables, they preached, and they ministered. And so Paul says, now here are overseers that we need, and here are deacons that we need. The problem in church is the people. And the answer to the problem in church is people. And Paul says these words, we need overseers, and we need deacons. We need a team to minister for the glory of the Lord. We need a team to serve the church. And I am so thankful for the team that is in this church. So let's look at this list that Paul gives. I want you to look and see that it is not a list that Forbes magazine would produce. It is not a list that Entertainment Tonight would produce. It is not a list that anybody teaching leadership today in the business world would produce. But it's a list of qualifications that overseers and deacons are supposed to have. And so let's read through them. It is a trustworthy statement. It is an important statement, Paul says. If any man aspires to the office of overseer, it is a fine work he desires to do. Paul is writing to Timothy, who's in Ephesus, and Ephesus is having problems with people. A bunch of stuff is going on, a bunch of garbage is thrown out. And Paul says, wait a minute, to want to be involved and to want to lead, that's a good thing. He literally says, that's a noble thing. This is a good desire to have. And in verse 2, he says, an overseer then must be above reproach, the husband of one wife, temperate, prudent, respectable, hospitable, able to teach, not addicted to wine or pugnacious. What a beautiful word. We're going to look at that in a moment of time. It literally means wanting to always throw fists. But gentle, peaceable, free from the love of money. He must be one who manages his own household well, keeping his children under control with all dignity. But if a man does not know how to manage his own household, how will he take care of the church of God? And not a new convert, so that he'll not become conceited. You know that word conceited literally means in the Greek? To have his head inflated with smoke and to be puffed up and think he's something but really to be nothing. What a beautiful word. And fall into the condemnation incurred by the devil. And he must have a good reputation. I want you to, each one of these statements is large and important, but he must have a good reputation. Where? with those outside the church, so that he will not fall into reproach and the snare of the devil. And then Paul shifts to deacons. But what he said about overseers also is carried over to the deacons. Some of it repeats, and 3 things he adds to the deacons. But the deacons are part of this list because Paul says this words, deacons likewise. And likewise means what I already said here applies to you, and I'm going to tell you something else again. Deacons likewise must be men of dignity. That does not mean, but we'll talk about what that means in a moment of time. Not double-tongued, or addicted to much wine, or fond of sordid gain, but holding to the mystery of faith with a clear conscience. These men also must also first be tested. Then let them serve as deacons if they are beyond reproach. I want to look at each one of those words just briefly because I love words. Ergo, you love words. But let's look at a few statements. This list is not a call to status, but it's a call to responsibility. This is not called to have a recognized portfolio and an office to celebrate and be revered. This is a list of people who are willing and called to serve. See, membership is not a list of privileges. Membership is a list of responsibilities. And our membership list is foolish if it only gives us privileges but not responsibilities. And so when Paul writes this list, he's saying, I'm not asking you to be in a place of prominence and a place of respect and a place of, ooh, look at that person. I am calling you to a place of responsibility, active responsibility. It's not status, it's responsibility. That he wants from this group within the church to make the church the group that it's supposed to be. Not a call to status, but a call to responsibility. Secondly, and this is huge, it is not a list of abilities, diplomas, certificates, degrees, and accomplishments. It's a list of attitudes and character, not abilities and doctrine. He does not say, here's the people that you are to look for. They need to have graduated from Harvard, great place. They need to have graduated from Laurentian, great place. They need to have this accomplishment. They need to have this experience. They need to have written this book. They need to have this type of education. They need to have this thing in their life. He doesn't say any of that. He says what qualifies you for a leader is that you have these attitudes and these characteristics that I'm about to say. I've been interviewed for church positions a lot in my life. And some of you may be thinking, I wish you were having that experience again. And I've never been asked about this list. I haven't asked, where did you go to school? What degrees do you have? What do you think your abilities and skill sets are? Those are important to have a place. But what cannot be set aside is the attitude and the character of the heart that makes a person the leader that the church needs today. You need to nod your heads up and down with me. It's the attitude and the character of the heart. We don't need expertise. We need men and women of character and Christ-like attitude. That's what we need. And that's what we have in this church. So there's no pedigree of I'm going to stop myself because I wanted to go into a preacher's alliteration there. There is no pedigree of expertise here. There is, look at their heart, Timothy. Look at their heart. For Paul says, a heart that you find has to be proven in the privacy of the personal home and in the business place of the market. What do I mean by that statement? That's large. Timothy, you're going to look for people that are a proven commodity. Look in their homes. See how they lead, see how they love, see how they follow Christ in their home, and then go into the marketplace, Timothy, and see what those on the outside think of them, Timothy. And if they on the outside of the church say, Well, no, that's somebody of integrity. That's what you're looking for, Timothy. You're looking for a proven leader by their characters, by their honesty, by their integrity, by the way they live in their home. Now, let me say this to a North American mindset. That doesn't mean everything in their home is going well, and it doesn't mean their business is a success. That's not what he's talking about here. Who they are in the home and who they are in the business place, that's the key, Timothy. So it's not, I am this way in church, but I am that way out of there. It's not a popularity contest in church, but it's proven character. And Paul goes to this over and over and over again in this list. Let people say these are the ones. Let people on the outside say these are the ones. Let their wives say these are the ones. Let the children say these are the ones. Let these people be proven outside of the walls of the church. Let them be proven in the circle that they are in. The private circle and the business circle. Let them be Christ-like out there, and that's who you put in charge. Years ago, my first youth pastorate was in Maple Ridge, British Columbia, and I was a student in Bible college out there, and they asked me to be youth pastor. And I think they recognized the ability of being tall. But that's not how you choose. It's proven matters of the heart. And I'm going to be repetitive. Paul says later on, let these matters be tested to see if they're true. Because we need heart people, Timothy. We need people of integrity, Timothy. That's who these servers are supposed to be. And then Paul says in this list, I've worded this way, scars are mandatory on these leaders. Because he says in this list that we just read, not a neophyte, not a brand new convert, not a beginner, not because they're a second-class citizen, but they need to have been through the war in order to lead people in the war. And scars point to the faithfulness of Christ. So when a new person comes in and they are amazing, don't put them in charge, Timothy. See who they are in their home. See who they are in the business. See what's in their heart, Timothy. Don't look at the degrees on the wall. Because we need people of the heart. Now let's look very quickly at this list. Keeping in mind that I love you, because I could dwell on this list for the next 12 years. I've grouped the first category because it all means the same thing. Paul says, above reproach. That means, in the Greek, this. You can't find a stain on them even when you poke around. They are above reproach. There is nobody on the inside or the outside that can say there's something deficient about this person's Christianity. Wow. Wow. And they need to be respectable, the English says here. It literally means, well, it means respectable, but it means, when did you get here? It means kind of well-mannered, kind of polite, kind of courteous, but it means sympathetic and gentle actions that are on the outside. And he needs to be a person in his house. And when Paul reads this list of qualifications, after he says above reproach, I'm skipping down a line, it says a one-woman man, which means this. You want to know if this person is above reproach? Look at how they live with their spouse. That's where it's proven. There. He says they must have a good record with outsiders. So to serve Timothy, this person has to be who they say they are, not just 1 day a week or 3 days a week, but they have to be people that are stain free. And I hesitated when I said that because all of us have stains. But it's what we do with those stains that make us above reproach. And Timothy, look into their marriage, and you will see what type of person they are. A one-woman man. Then he says, they need to be sober-minded. Some English translations say temperate. And so people think of the alcohol question. But when Paul says temperate or sober-minded here, it means they ought not to be driven by impulse. Ready to, They need to be well-paced. They need to be steady. They need to be, Paul says, self-controlled. You know the only way we can control ourselves is giving up control of ourselves to the Spirit, because the fruit of the Spirit is self-control. So Timothy, these people can't be impulsive, just running this way and running that way. They have to be in a state of control by the Spirit of God. They have to be hospitable, Timothy, which means their homes have to be a beacon of light to the stranger. If they're not doing it in their home, Timothy, they won't be able to do it in the church. Then he says they need to be able to teach, which does not mean degreed, but they need to be connected with the Messiah so they can speak what he speaks to them. They need not to be a drunkard, not violent, and this is the word, not violent, this is the word pugnacious, not always throwing their fists at people, not always waiting to explode, Timothy, not always, I'm going to kill. I remember a fellow that told me he took anger management, which is a great thing. I said, what did they tell you to do? They told me to count to 10. I said, is it working? He goes, yeah. At work now I go 1 idiot, 2 idiots, 3 idiots, 4 idiots, 5 idiots, 6 idiots, 7 idiots. He didn't mean to point at you, Costa. I was really pointing at Bill behind you. Not pugnacious. So the first choice is not explosion. The first choice is gentleness and not quarrelsome. Timothy, the leader, can't be one looking to win a fight. Can't be one looking to score points. Can't be one to rise himself up, Timothy. Not a lover of money. He's not driven by the reward here, but driven by the reward there. Not new, must have scars. And then Paul adds to these 3 to the deacons that he did not speak to the overseers. He said, not double-tongued. I was raised on Westerns. John Wayne and Clint Eastwood are absolutely amazing. If you don't know them, shame on you. My wife was delighted when I went bin diving in the Walmart for many years, looking for that cherished Western at the bottom. She was so pleased by my diligence. In those Westerns, they use a term, forked tongue, which double tongue means. To speak one way and then to speak another way, which every way is convenient at the time. Paul says these deacons, they must hold fast to the mystery of godliness. They must cling to it. It must be all that they want to embrace in their life. And Timothy, these people need to be tested. Not what is the numerical value of pi, or not what is cos squared plus sine squared equal, which is the only thing I remember from high school. And Krebs' DNA cycle, I think. But they need to be tested by eyes that see. Look at this person. They walk with Christ. They've been with Christ. They are serving Christ. And now we will empower them to serve here. This, Timothy, is how you build a church. This is a list, Timothy, not of accomplishments, but of attitudes. Let's apply it to you and I. How do I do on this list? Am I pugnacious? Do I want to quarrel? Am I known outside and inside, in-house and out-house, as being gentle, as being firm, as being well-mannered, as being courteous, as representing Christ? Or is my Christian knees only a veneer that is shown in the religious vernacular of certain settings? Paul says to Timothy, choose, Timothy, these people, these men and women that have these characteristics and attitudes, and then you will see the church be the church, the pillar of the living God.